My name is Elise Wattman. I was the audio lead for Junktopia, which means I did the soundtrack, so all the music, and the sound effects. Junktopia! We are collecting antiques, and we are bidding, and we are creating stories, trying to get turned back into our human form, because at the beginning, this wizard has turned us into frogs.
Y'all may have noticed I've turned you into frogs.
It exists in this cool, mysterious shop. We get to take really cool images of wild antiques and create what their purpose would have been that is different from its original purpose, of course. But I would argue a life as a frog would be pretty fun. So even if you don't get turned back into a human, you still win. I have always been a pianist, and I feel super fortunate to have a job in music because it's kind of a rough road when you start out and you tell your parents, I'm gonna be a musician, mom and dad. I definitely tried to woo anyone that I had a crush on by writing them a song. I was always kind of creating on my own because I think it's a very self-generated type of thing. Studied piano, switched to jazz, did a quick 180 and moved to Chicago, started working in the Chicago comedy scene as a music director. And then a friend of mine sent me the Jackbox application. And I was like, yep, this is the perfect job. I'm gonna do this forever. I would say my hobbies tend toward the athletics side of things and my work tends toward the music side of things. Isn't that interesting? I love the way that we work in teams at Jackbox because you have a person from each discipline and you're kind of co-creating and you take the director's vision and everybody has their own little area to kind of develop. So as the audio lead, I would say I work most directly with the artist who is creating the characters and the colors, and then I have to create the sonic bed for all of the characters. World building through sound, kind of what you're looking at, I want to make what you're hearing match that.
Golly, that's something.
So, Junktopia, it's an antique-inspired game, so my brain goes, antique, okay, folk, old southeastern United States, Appalachian music, bluegrass, and so that's where I started for my game was bluegrass. And since we have a wizard, I kind of created a little genre, enchanted bluegrass, by adding the theremin, which is not typically an instrument you would hear in any bluegrass. And then I just get free range to write the loops that you hear, and then as we start getting visuals in, creating the sound effects for those, and kind of putting them into the game. This is a banjo that I built for the game. Do I play banjo? Absolutely not, but I do now. I really wanted to get that old twangy sound. It's a really crappy version of a banjo, which again leans into the antique sound, I would say. Typically I'll use a lot of virtual instruments for video game production, but for this one I wanted live sound, again in the tradition of folk and bluegrass. So I used my crappy little banjo and a mandolin and guitar, and I recorded all of those instruments live to mix in with the drums and synths, and then the theremin, which is the, I would say, main melodic instrument for this soundtrack. Kind of pull from lots of different textures this time, which was exciting in the mixing room. And by exciting, I mean really hard. I like to record a lot of my sound effects myself instead of pulling from banks, because then they really sound like me. Quite literally, because for this game I used a lot of mouth sounds. We have frogs, or little characters, between the rivets and tongue action and feet moving. I really couldn't find anything that I liked more than the own squishing sounds that I could make with my mouth. There's a lot of me at 2 a.m. being gotta put a low pass filter on any squishes. Also, there's a lot of kind of magical elements, so lots of chimes and lots of reverse effects. So I'll play a ding into my mic and then reverse it, so it's shring. A lot of Foley style recording, which is what I really love, which is different materials that are used to create sound. Instead of footsteps, maybe just moving sand across a board, moving a cup and slamming the cup down. That's how you create a footstep sound, you know. You know, like Squidward's feet sounds? For some frog feet walking. I had this balloon and I was like rubbing my thumb over it. I accidentally cut the balloon and there was water in it, and the water filled all over my workspace, which, you know, you have gear, panic mode. But I kept rolling, I kept recording the sound of the water splashing. I ended up using that sound as an effect instead of the little squishing, even though it was a complete accident. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but I will say I was so proud of this. I was working on this for days and I spilled water over my gear. Finally figured out the sound that I loved and I put it in the game, and our director was like, frog feet, way too distracting. I was like, no, my frog feet. But then they were testing the game and a lot of people were like, I love that frog feet sound. And they were commenting how much they loved the frog feet. We had a big team frog feet contingency. I told my director, I was like, I don't know. You're gonna have to pick a side because the people love the frog feet. And they made it in the game. Or did they? You'll have to buy Party Pack 9 to find out. It's so exciting for me because I think the creative process, we oftentimes describe it as feeling inspired, and then that is when you write or work, you know, or oftentimes a breakup is a very inspiring thing. A heartbreak album, a new relationship. There's certain things in life that provide a natural source of creativity and inspiration. But if you don't have those things happening, how do you feel creative? And that is the, I feel, eternal question for a musician. I really like this structured style of generation lends itself towards being creative. Being inspired by a character because maybe it has funky eyebrows, or the ending sequence, the human has wacky knees. There's always something a little bit grotesque or a little bit silly or a little bit surprising about Owen's art, and so because of that, it makes me have a reaction, and then I try to generate the same type of reaction with the music.
Magic! Oh my!
Party Pack 9 is really exciting. All of the games are so different, which is why I love it. I want to say Enchanted Bluegrass is a reason to be excited. I don't know if I've ever heard of a theremin mandolin combination. There are so many things that you will not notice on the first time playing through this game. You will keep wanting to play it. In fact, I keep noticing things and I am freaking making the game. So it is a world that keeps unfolding. That's why I'm so proud of it, is I feel like we created a world instead of just a game. I get a lot of questions on how do you make music for video games? I would say just make it. Because you are the audio expert, meaning what you hear and what sounds exciting and fun to you is what you get to make. Try it. It's gonna be awesome.